Hey there, Sandra from Conversion Minded, and today I'm covering how to create an editorial calendar using Google Sheets. I love Google Sheets, I use it for everything, and I'm super excited to share this with you so that you can create a content calendar. I'm going to break this down into 3 different sections. The first section is really how to decide the types of content that you're going to share. The second section is how to map that into the calendar and look at what you're going to be sharing every day of the month. And then the third section is I'm going to show you actually how to customize the calendar. I'm going to show you some of the editing tools inside of Google Sheets so that you can really make this work for your business. Now, I like to use Google Sheets with Trello. I feel like Trello really is an environment where I can start to see my posts come alive. I can pull together my images, brainstorm my ideas, and I can really see it in a visual way. And I like to use Google Sheets for more of a bird's eye view, more of a practical view of the content that I'm going to be sharing. This is where I kind of do a little bit higher level planning, and then Trello is once you start to kind of dig into it and start to pull them all together. So if you want to know how to create an editorial calendar using Trello so that you can use them together the same way, go ahead and check out that video. And I also just want to let you know about a course I have. It's called Smart Social Media, and it is a deep dive on the strategies to use social media to build your business. It's got everything in there. It's got content strategies, it's got sales funnels, and it's got platform-specific strategies. I dig into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, strategies that you can use to get massive traffic, build a following, and get leads and subscribers consistently and make sales. So definitely make sure that you check that out. Okay, so first let's dive into the content types and how to decide which content types you're going to share. I know this is a big question that a lot of people have. You can get stuck sometimes just not knowing what to share. So let me show you the content buckets that I have here. I like to think of the different types of content in terms of content buckets. And generally speaking, there are 6 content buckets, and one of them is blog posts, one of them is promotions, then we have free offers, curated content, events, and quotes. And I want to dig into each one of these a little bit more just so that you're super clear on what I mean by each of these. So in blog posts, this is the content that you're creating. So it can be like tutorials or roundup posts, any helpful tips that you want. If you've had customers or friends ask you questions, by all means use blog posts to answer them. Maybe you want to incorporate your videos with your blog posts, interview your customers and feature them. All of those can be part of what you create as your own content, your own blog posts. Now, if we look at promotions, I think some small businesses and entrepreneurs get hung up here because you don't really know what types of content to share, so you're always sharing your promotions. And I want to just encourage you to watch how much you're sharing your promotions, because people are just going to kind of zone out on it, because that's really not the way social media is supposed to be used. So you want to be careful and just use your promotions for about 20 to 30% of your posts. On the other hand, you don't want to forget to share your promotions, and that's why we're going to map everything out onto this calendar so that you can really see what you're going to be sharing throughout the month and know that everything is working together, everything's going to help drive your bottom line and increase sales. So under promotions, you want to share your products, your services, if you have affiliate products that you're promoting, any bundles or specials or discounts, and your sales. So those types of posts come under the hood of promotions. Then when we talk about free offers, these are the types of things that you're offering people in order for them to start to be in your audience, in your community, to get a feel of what it would be like to engage with you and work with you. So things like webinars and workshops, if you have challenges or mini courses or any kind of resource that will help them in their business, a consultation, a free trial, a free gift, newsletter, ebooks, and worksheets, all of these types of things fall under the hood of free offers. And what we're talking about here is something that you're giving, a free giveaway that you're offering prospective customers in exchange for their contact info, for their email. That comes under the bucket of free offers. Next, if we look at quotes, what I'm including in quotes is really a lot, okay? You can have regular quotes. We're talking about motivation here, so things like Monday motivation or Throwback Thursdays, any words of encouragement, holiday wishes would be under here, engaging questions that you might want to ask your audience. So anything that really motivates and engages your audience. What I like to do when I'm using quotes and I'm creating content for quotes is I like to just kind of put aside a day, a couple hours a day to really brainstorm out what I'd like to share with my audience. And I find that this bucket in particular is pretty easy to get together and to share because you don't have to do a lot of deep digging in terms of researching maybe a blog post or thinking about what to create for a blog post. Really you have to just create the quote itself or whatever your message is, words of encouragement, whatever it is, and maybe create a quick graphic for it and you're done. And then under events, so this would be any type of event that you have. So if you have a local event or an online event, things like contests and giveaways, product launches, announcements about your company, that what's happening, things like that would fall under the event bucket. Now, the next confusing thing that I think people have to grapple with, I know I had to grapple with it, was, how do you split up, how do you choose which content to share? Because, 6 buckets is a lot. So what do you share first? And my recommendation is to share from 2 buckets first. So that could be, you could decide that it's blog posts and promotions. And if that's the case, then that's fine. Then for however long it takes you to ramp up and incorporate other buckets, and you just stay right here and you share your blog posts and you share your promotions. Or you could choose, you could find other people's content to share. And that's a really easy way too to have some content to share to your audience. You could share other people's content and you can share from the quote bucket. I know when I first started sharing on Twitter, all I did was share other people's content because I was just too afraid to start digging in there and starting to figure out what to share on my own. And if that feels like the safest place for you to start, definitely go ahead and do that. The point is here to pick from 2 buckets, and then you can add another bucket when you feel comfortable and when you have the first 2 buckets kind of streamlined into a system. Now, I get into how to create that system in my social media strategy video, so definitely be sure to check that out. That's got a lot of helpful tips that's going to help you organize your daily and weekly and monthly activities and really kind of develop a strategy around the goals that you want to achieve. So definitely watch that video. It's a great video. So now that you know how to approach the content buckets, what you want to do is you want to take these buckets, you want to map them out into a working content library. And this is where you take those color-coded buckets and start mapping them out on a spreadsheet and really start kind of brainstorming what you're going to share for that month inside of that content bucket. So you see I have posts here, products and services, and free offers. So this is what I'm planning on sharing, and I don't really have motivation or event bucket, right? That's totally okay. As we mentioned, you don't have to feel like you have to fill up every bucket. I like to keep it on here just so that I know where I'm headed, what to aim for maybe for the next month, but I don't stress myself, and you shouldn't stress yourself either. So if we take a look at this, what's happening here is that you're getting some ideas together, or maybe you already have content that you created for the post category. You would add your URL so that you know where you're picking it up from. This is where you're starting to organize what you're actually going to share. And make some notes about the images that you want to use. Make some notes about what still needs to be done in order for you to really be able to share that post or that content type. And over here in this column, what I like to do is I like to just associate each content type with a campaign. And by campaign, I mean promotion. So something related to your products or services. So make sure that the pieces that you're sharing relate to something that you're offering, your main offers. That's very important because we want to make sure that this is a cohesive calendar and that we're going to be able to reach our goals. So you'll see here that for this blog post, I have the URL, and this is the campaign that it supports, right? It leads people into my sales funnel for my Smart Social Media course. And then these two would lead people into my funnel for my List Pro course. Now, these don't have to be products or services that you have today. Obviously, it makes sense to share content that does correspond to a product or service that you have today, but you may not necessarily have all of your offers together right now. So if you know that you're going to be offering something, I think it's totally fine to create content around it so that you can start to build in your sales funnels. Just make sure that you are prioritizing your current products and services so that you make sure that you're going to reach your bottom line for the current month. So this is what this looks like. This is where you start brainstorming it. It's the content library, and from there what we're going to do is we're going to start filling out this content calendar. So this is the template. I created it, and I created it right here in Google Docs. And in the next step, I'm going to show you how to edit this so that you can customize it to make it work for you. And I've listed out the social media channels and the days of the week, and I have some extra spaces here, and I'll show you why they're here in a minute. Okay, so this is what this looks like. Every day is the same. We have the social channels, and it's a blank template. So this is what you would use when you're starting out. You just have your content library, you open up your calendar template, and you start filling it in like this. So we're starting to fill this in with the actual content pieces, and we're starting to plug them into the days of the week that we're going to share them. And we're using the same color coding so that you can see at a glance, you start to get used to these color-coded themes and content types, and you can make associations. So you know you're sharing your blog post, like for instance, yellow is my product color, this kind of green color is my quote, and this blue is for my free offers. So you start to fill it out here, and you'll see that I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Now, I don't share on YouTube as frequently as I share on Facebook, so a lot of times this for me is blank. I do one YouTube a week generally, so that's totally okay. If you're just on a couple channels right now, that is totally fine. And in fact, that's the way that I recommend that you approach social media overall, is that you don't try to spread yourself too thin and share everywhere all at once. So you may not need to have YouTube and Pinterest and Twitter on your calendar. And if that's you, if that's the case, that's totally fine. You can just empty these, you can clear them out, and just show the social channels that you're on. And if you want some help deciding which social media channels you should be focusing on, I cover exactly that, how to figure out which social media channels your audience is on and where you should be spending your time. So definitely check that video out. Like I said, you're not on Pinterest or YouTube. You can just select all of these. If you don't want to see these social media channels, if it overwhelms you because they're not pertinent to you, totally fine. You can just select them all. I just held the Shift key down as I clicked on each one of these cells, and then you can press delete, and voila, they're gone. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's kind of how this works. This should be something that's customizable for you and your business, so don't feel like, again, you have to be on every single social channel at once. The other thing that I mentioned is these extra spaces, and you can see right here how they start to fill up. So I like to include not only my social media content here, but I like to have a snapshot of all of the content so that I remember to email my subscribers, and I remember about some big launches. So I like to highlight in blue here throughout the month if I have a product launch. So in this case, it's Smart Social Media. That's what I'm launching. And I like to use a very vibrant, differentiated color for that because really this is big, right? You want to make sure that all of your content supports that, and you want to make sure that you remember to share it. So having it on here really is helpful in a way that you visually see it like this. So that's why these extra cells are down here. Now, you may not need to see every single individual social media channel here, right? It's kind of overkill, especially when you're sharing the same thing on most channels, which a lot of people do, especially when you're starting out, and that's totally fine. You kind of share the same thing because, let's face it, it takes time to come up with content to share. So if that's the case, there's also a simple calendar here that you can use just so that you can see the content types, the day you're sharing it, and what each content piece is that you're sharing. So this is a simplified version of the calendar where you can just kind of get a very, very quick bird's eye view of what you're going to be sharing on each day. And if you know that you are right now focusing on Facebook and Instagram, and those are the social channels that you're digging into, then this simple calendar is probably going to work for you, and that's all you need. So next, as a third phase, I just want to show you how you can start editing this calendar, customizing it to suit your needs. The first thing that you'd want to do is, I always do this and I always kick myself when I forget. The first thing you want to do is you want to just duplicate this sheet. All of these down here are different sheets, and they're all inside of the same spreadsheet. So there's a quick little mini tutorial that's included here. I'm going to leave a link to this calendar template below the video so you can definitely grab it and download it. And what you want to do with this sheet is you want to select this arrow here and you just want to duplicate this. And that's going to give you a copy of it, and now you can start editing it. We'll just call this test. And that way, as you're working and editing, you know that you can always come back to this original if you feel like things got too out of whack. The next thing I want to show you quickly is, let's say that you do make a lot of changes and you realize that they are just not the changes that you wanted. And you were kind of midway through this, so you don't want to go all the way back to this original and redo your work. You just made a couple flubs and you want to get back. You can go up under here and you can view your version history. And you can go and you can see your entire version history. And you can click through here. This is what I love about Google Sheets. You're not editing anything and unable to get back to a previous version. So you can click on one of these, take a look at it, click through and see what version that was. And if this is the version that you liked, you can simply go up here and say restore this version. And you're done, and you have it back where you wanted it to be. So that's just a quick tip to show you how to get back edits that you may or may not have wanted to do. Okay, so now we have our test sheet, and I'm just going to show you some ways that you can start modifying this. So let me just give you the basics here. Up here are all of your font and your color palette and things like that. So if you want a bold text, you can simply select a cell, select bold, and it's bold. I'm not going to do that. Or if you want to change the font size or the font family, that's all up here. This is all using Google Fonts, so you have a lot to choose from here. And this is simply the italics version if you don't want that italic, and I have a smaller font size here. So you can play around with the fonts and the font sizes, and here's where you can change the text color. You can make that green if you want. And if you want to see some custom colors, then you can go in here and you can type in a hex code if you have one. Let's say you want a gray. You can start entering in something, and then you'll get this color wheel, and you can start to get some custom colors in here. If you have brand colors that you like to use for your things, that's where you could plug those in. Up here is where you can add borders. So this is the tool that I use to add borders between each of the days. So you can select your entire cell here, or you can even, let's say, select this whole column, and let's see if I can say no borders on it. And what happens then? You see the borders are gone. So that's one way that you can get borders and delete borders. Now if you want to get those back, I think it's a little bit trickier than that, but let's see. I can go up here and I can say right border. So it's either left or right. You want to do these one at a time, and you'll see that I got my borders back there, but you'd have to do the same thing within each of these cells. And you can manually, what I'm doing, I selected both of these, but you'll notice I didn't select everything in between. So what I did was I simply selected one cell, and then I held the command key down. Yes, the command key, I'm not sure what that would be on the PC, I'm on a Mac, and I selected the other one. So then I can go up under these and I can say that I want the top row and it added the top row, and then I would have to select them again and say that I want the bottom border. So it's showing you here, you get a visual of where it would be adding borders, and if you click on this one, that means no borders, and you can change the border color right here. Okay, and now I have my borders back. So that's how you would work with borders. And this is where you would either decide to, let's say I'm going to click this, I would center this or left align it or right align it. So that's right in here. And the same thing with the vertical positioning. So if this is in the middle, I have this set for, or you could have it shoved up to the top, or you could align it to the bottom. So those are your basic tools. Those are the ones that you're going to be using the most to customize your fonts and to customize the cells themselves a little bit. Now I want to show you some things that you might want to know in order to manipulate the cells and what's in the cells a little bit more. So let's say that you didn't really need these 4 or these 6 rows. Like let's say these are rows and I don't really need them. So what I'm doing is I'm simply selecting one and then holding the shift key down until the last one that I don't need. I think I went too far. Okay, so I don't need these. And what you can do is you can, from there, then right click and you can just say delete rows. The other thing that you can do here, if you're not sure if you don't want to delete them, you're not sure if you want to delete them or not, is you can do something really cool and you can just hide them. And that way they're out of sight, out of mind, but you can always click these arrows and get them back. Now, if you're sure that you want to delete them, you can go ahead and just delete them. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one cell like this. I'm going to go ahead and merge these inside of here. Now you want, when you're merging cells, cells are within columns, right? So cells are kind of made up of a row and a column. So I'm not going to select all of this and say merge all of this because I still want my days separated. So I would just merge this so that I can maybe just put in one thing in here and I don't have to have all of them. So what you would do then is the same thing. You would select the first cell and then hold the shift key down to just select all of the cells that you want, and then you go under format and you can merge those cells. And it's going to let you know that it's taking the leftmost value, top left, which is fine. That's just telling you that it's only going to keep this top text here, the Pinterest. And then you'll see that it pushed it to the bottom, and I can just go up here and I can say make that centered, and I can actually make that centered here too. And then you can just put in the actual maybe content piece that you're going to share that day. So in this case, it would be SM Success Launch. Right? And then I can go and I can color that cell. And this is where you would color the cell. So right here, this paint bucket will fill a row or a cell. And this is the same exact thing, but it applies to your text color itself. Okay, so that's how you can start to manipulate these and customize them to suit your needs. So you can either hide or delete rows, the same thing with a whole column. Let's say for some reason you don't want Tuesday in here, you could just say hide the column, and then you can expand it when you want to see it again. And it's super simple to go ahead and do that. So one of the things you're going to want to do for sure is you're going to want to be in your current month. So for instance, in this current month is June, that actually starts on a Friday. So you would just go in here and change these days and just go down and do the whole thing here. Change that. And so on and so forth. So that's super simple. You can just empty these fields out. And that way you have the actual days of the month. I'm going to undo all of that. But that gives you an idea of how to start to do that. And I think that that really pretty much covers you in terms of being able to customize this to suit your needs. Little quick Google Sheets tutorial there. I love Google Sheets. People ask me all the time why I like Google Sheets versus Excel, and the reason is that you can share it with a team. This is super simple here. You can go ahead and click this and share this, and you'll have a link to give anyone that you're working on your social media calendar access to, so you guys can work on it back and forth, and you can brainstorm your content pieces. And because of that version history and being able to restore is a huge lifesaver. And the other reason is that, you know, when you work with Excel spreadsheets, you're working with folders on your hard drive, you're digging for things, and you have to save manually the versions yourself, and you wind up with a lot of files that you don't need, and you wind up with a lot of digging that you don't need. So I find that this is a really easy way to work once you are used to these editing tools, super simple to do whatever you need. I just want to look at the other thing that you might need is this text wrapping. So if you have a really long blog post, and let's say that this keeps going and going and going, it's either going to be set for cutoff, which is what I have. So overflow, it will continue to overflow unless there is content in the adjacent column, right? If this field right here were blank, this whole text line would just continue and it would overlap. The minute that you populate this, it cuts it off, it clips it. But I generally use, instead of the overflow, I like to either wrap it so I can see it right there, or I like to clip it. And that does the same thing as the overflow, but if I empty this cell out, it won't overflow into the next column. So it's just a heads up, and it's a nice way to be able to organize the text that you're seeing and format it in a way that you prefer to see it. So those are the biggies under format, is merge cells and the text wrapping. I don't really do anything else here. When I need to bold anything, I use these tools up here, the icons. You can insert rows above right here, but again, you can also click on any row, right click, and you can say insert a row above or below, or delete or clear it. So, you know, you're going to get a lot of functionality for both columns. The column equivalent of that would be selecting A, B, C through Z, and these numbers here are what you would select to grab the whole entire row. So that's different than just selecting manually like this a series of rows that you want to grab. So let's say I wanted to color code this top up here. I could do that either by selecting them all or by selecting the rows. So there you go, and I can then just apply a, you know, bold color here, and I can grab the whole thing again, and I can say I want these colors for all of this to be white. So you can start to see how you can customize it. And the other thing that you're going to want to know is if you would like to, for whatever reason, download this, you can download this as a Excel file or as a CSV file, whatever format you prefer. And you can actually make a PDF of this. So if this is something that you want to turn into a PDF for whatever reason, you can do that as well. So that's it. That's my quick tutorial on how to create an editorial calendar using Google Sheets. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up. It helps me create more content for you guys, more videos to help you grow your business. And if you'd like to, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps me to continue to create helpful tutorials for you. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.